All right, Facebook Live. Happy Monday, kicking off your week. If you're in Florida, you probably don't have the best boating weather, but it is the best boat talking weather. Thanks for joining us. I'm Captain Nick Pavlakis from MarineMax in St. Pete. Besides me, my other host, Captain Keith Lake, YouTube extraordinaire, boating genius. And Keith, we have somebody special today.
Absolutely, we do. We got Jim McGowan from Raymarine here. Wealth of knowledge, marketing manager at Raymarine. I got to spend some time last year with Jim over at on the East Coast. Those of you maybe seen some YouTube videos, we did a bunch of different features that the Raymarine Axiom system does, from flying drones to 3D sonar. So everybody join in today. Ask Jim questions because he's the man with the answers.
I'll try. I'll do my best. Thanks for having me today, guys.
Absolutely. How cool is it? How many questions are there? I mean, this is the cool stuff. This isn't changing out a bilge pump. This isn't scrubbing your deck. This is the cool stuff. This is the future. And how often do you have a direct line to the factory to say, hey, what's going on? What's up with this? I saw this at IBEX. I saw this at YouTube. This is an incredible opportunity for everybody. So really, really, really fortunate to have you here.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity to come out. It's always great to meet people that are using our products out on the water and enjoying them, and show them a thing or two that they might not know that their product can do. There's a lot of capabilities in there, so it's all about having fun and learning more and more about it.
Absolutely. I think a big thing on the Raymarines is just like unleashing its full potential. Like, how much more can you actually do out of your machine to get the most out of it? I mean, Keith, when you're going through these basic run-throughs, I mean, you've got your depth finder, you've got your bottom machine, whatever it is, and you're really just scratching the surface on just getting the essentials out of the way.
Absolutely. And once you sit down, you turn the chart plotter on, turn on the Axiom or whatever Raymarine product you got, I mean, it's worth its weight in gold. I mean, people just light up. They're like, oh my God, I can have tracks turned on. I can go here. I can follow it back. If I'm out, I go to dinner. It's dark. I'm coming home. I mean, and the way I'll set it up, like you guys know how I've set them up. You see my videos, but on the charts, anything 6 foot or deeper is going to be on a white background. 6 foot to 3 foot's the light blue, and 3 foot or less the dark. So, I mean, just keep it in the white, and it's a no-brainer. You don't have to worry about, running aground, or you're always going to know what's ahead of you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really cool feature. That's the depth contour shading, and you can you just set that up and really customize it to your boat and the areas that you boat in all the time. Some areas of the country just naturally have a lot of deeper water, and other places it's really shallow. It's just a great way that you can tune it into the way that you use your boat.
So before we get going here, before I pick Jim's brain about everything going on, from what I want to know, drop those questions in the comments right there. I know that you guys are going to have some great stuff. Like I said, it is your one chance to ask the factory, hey, what is going on? So ask those questions. You got the man that can answer them, and hopefully don't get too complicated on us, but we'll get you some good stuff. So of course, also Facebook at MarineMax Leisure, Instagram and YouTube at MarineMax Online, and of course Twitter at MarineMax. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on those notifications so you don't miss another opportunity like this. Before we get going here, we're going to answer a few questions from last week throughout the course of the day. But number one thing that I was really excited to learn about is I'm going to hit on last week. We had a great question about bottom paint. So bottom paint might be one of those things that's not as glorious. It's not as glamorous as the electronics and all the cool stuff. But I'll tell you what, Keith, I know that you can talk about it with your service team, with my service team. You ask a question about bottom paint, you would think that you're solving the Da Vinci Code.
Exactly.
With how excited they get, there's different bottom paints for where you're keeping the boat, what you're doing with the boat, what you're trying to accomplish. Hard paint, soft paint. It is rocket science, and it's really cool to have those guys that can speak to it like that. So this is Jeff's question from last week. Talk to us about bottom paint. Why does it wear so much faster in the stern? Also, how do you keep trim tabs from getting barnacled up? So one of the things that Jeff had brought up is he had beautiful Micron 66 bottom paint on his boat. Now, that's great for your hull. That's high quality bottom paint. However, for the trim tabs, it doesn't work very well. So you need I learned this today too, you need a different type of bottom paint for your metals. that you don't need to put such a barrier coat on. It's not going to flake off. A great one that Bruce Laporta recommended at our store is Trilux. That stuff, you're going to have to switch it up a little bit. You put it on your trim tabs, and you're going to prevent that growth on a moving part, so it's very important. So, Jeff, if you're watching, that's your answer. Sorry we didn't get to you last week, but went straight to the source for you and got you everything that you needed to know. Of course, all this information is just a phone call away, too. If you ever want to talk bottom paint with the bottom paint guys, we've got your guys, so let's make it happen.
That's right. Hey, we had another question last week from Tyler, and actually this would be a great question for Jim. He was asking how you can test your distress button on your VHF radio to make sure that it's going to work when you're relying on it to work, when you need it to work.
Yeah, so there's actually a couple things that you can do. So there is actually a test mode built into the radio. You go into the radio's menu system, into its DSC functions, and you'll actually see a test mode that you can run in there, and that will actually do kind of a self-check on the system and make sure that it's working. The other way you can test as well in a non-emergency mode is to find another boat or a buddy in the marina that has a DSC radio. Exchange MMSI numbers. The MMSI number is kind of the key to that whole digital selective calling service. But actually call him up, initiate a DSC call, see that his radio receives your incoming call, and that he can acknowledge it and send the message back to you, and you can get linked up. It's just a great way to check the functionality of the system and also to get some familiarization with it too.
Okay, that MMSI number is very, very important, and it's a free service, a free thing you can get through CETO, Boat US. There's a bunch of different ways. The FCC. What it is your personal identification number that you'll enter into your VHF radio, so that like you can add your buddies. So if you just want to make a direct call to them, you can pull their number up and call them. But if you hit that distress button, you have to have that MMSI number in there. So the Coast Guard, when they get that call, they'll know who you are, the make of your boat, the color of your boat, and all that stuff, because you've filled out all that information. But it'll also go to any other boater around there, right? That's capable of receiving that call, and
Absolutely.
You'll pop up on their chart plotter.
Yes, yeah. Most modern chart plotter systems have integration with the radio and DSC. So when a call comes in, it'll actually pop the position of the boat on the chart, and it is a great safety and convenience tool. Just being able to make a private call over VHF or a private hail. Is great for somebody that's fishing and doesn't want to give up the hot spot that they're in, but they want to let their buddies know, come on over. But in a genuine emergency situation too, when you want to call, the cavalry in and have everybody come, that's the system that'll save your behind.
And this is National Safe Boating Week too, and so this morning I was going through. We'll get into this later probably, but say you had I was reading up. Say you had a personal locator beacon. With an MMSI number in it, or you're going to just, obviously it's going to go off. But if you fall overboard, something happens. And if it's connected to your MFD, and let's say you've got FLIR, that it will actually send an alert. It'll go to that chart plotter, and then the FLIR will get notified. And then it'll do like a man overboard and go in it. The FLIR will lock on the person on that signal that it's receiving. It's incredible.
It is, yeah. There's a lot of integration between all the different systems on board. So, yeah, a lot of those PLBs have they have AIS in them now too. So if you go in the water, they'll show up as an AIS contact. And yes, yeah, you can through a feature called Slew to Queue when we have a FLIR camera on board integrated. Yeah. Oh, hey Nick.
I was saying hi to somebody that just joined.
Oh, no problem. So, yeah, I was saying there's this feature called Slew to Queue, and basically you can have the FLIR camera automatically follow different types of targets on the system. So one of those could be an AIS contact, and that AIS contact could be that personal locator beacon that's over the side. And the camera will pan and tilt to keep that person in the camera's field of view automatically as you're maneuvering the boat to go rescue them.
That's
wow.
Cool. Yeah, isn't that cool?
Not only does it, tie everything together, but you think about a panic situation. You lose somebody in the water, everybody's going to be freaking out on board the boat. Anything you can do, to stay calm, make the situation a little bit easier, make the data easier to understand is, gonna reap big rewards when it, in getting the job done in this case and getting that person back on board the boat. And that's what we really want to do in those scenarios, is make the data easy to understand, automate the equipment, make it do the work for you.
Outstanding.
Absolutely. So there's a lot of great brands of electronics out there. One thing I'm going to say about Raymarine is I think that it's almost you can't even dispute that Raymarine is always on the cutting edge. They're always on that cutting edge of technology. They're always a step ahead. And from a sales standpoint, me being in sales, is I want to say a big thing is that relationship between FLIR and Raymarine. So what does that mean to the end user? A big question that I have, big thing that's come up recently, it's the night vision. It's the cool stuff. It's reading the heat signatures. And basically what I'm trying to ask Jim is, how does that make a difference? You can install FLIR on just about anything, but when you have that FLIR night vision, what makes that different? What makes this technology different when you're making it intertwined with a Raymarine machine? How does that make it a little bit more integrated?
Well, what's really cool about it is the integration is virtually seamless. So when a Raymarine, say an Axiom multifunction display, sees one of the FLIR thermal cameras on the network, all of the controls, all of the settings to do everything on that camera are available to you on that Raymarine MFD. One of the other kind of key things is the display of the video, right? We want to have the best possible picture quality that we can get. And like you alluded to earlier, we can put a FLIR onto anything. So, if someone's shopping for a FLIR and they have a competitor system, that's great. We can put the camera up onto it. But when we do put that FLIR into a Raymarine system, a good example where we really excel here is in what we call video over IP. So we can actually access, a high definition quality digital video stream off of that FLIR camera over the Ethernet network. So not only can you see it on the Raymarine display on your helm, but if you've got a tower or you've got another MFD somewhere else on the boat, you can see it on all of those too, because it's distributed video. You can record it, you can screen capture it. So it just kind of goes over and above just a standard, monitor looking at a FLIR image. It becomes, a total integrated piece of the network.
Mm-hmm.
So how precise? I know when we were down there in Pompano, we were riding around that. We took the Boston Weather 38 outrage out that one evening, and there were coconuts floating in the water, and we were actually picking those. I mean, you could the temperature range is so minute, right?
It's very, very small. Yeah, it really only takes a few hundredths of a degree of a variance in the temperature for the camera to be able to detect it, and that's really important. You think of some place like Florida, where everything is just getting blasted by the sun all day long, and it comes up to a very, very hot temperature. But by the time you get to evening and things start to cool off, all those different materials cool at different rates. Something that is concrete or metal, is going to hold temperature a lot longer than something that's plastic or something that's fiberglass. And so because they cool off at those different rates, that's what really enables those cameras to shine at night. They can see those variances in temperature and really give you some incredible images.
Well, what I think so neat about that FLIR night vision, it's not reading off of light, it's reading off of heat, like you said. I mean, just very, very small increments. And one thing I thought was very cool is I was testing it out before delivery, and there was a big 44 kilo power catamaran, and it was leaving our basin, and you could actually pick up in the water where the boat had been in its prop wash behind the boat. And that's pretty cool. I've heard stories of seeing a guy smoking a cigarette at South Seas when you're coming into the basin there, stuff like that. You see stuff that's not exactly visible to the naked eye. So it's like, yeah, man, I can see at night, just like I could in the day. Well, actually, it's a little bit better because you're picking up stuff that you want to be able to see even in the middle of the day.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. The thermal, or what we're seeing there is infrared energy, but commonly known as heat. And that heat signature is something that everybody, everybody and everything in the world has a heat signature. Even ice has a heat signature.
Right.
And just being able to pick that up, like he was talking about the wake of the boat, the engines, heat up that water as it passes through the engine. When it discharges it back into the ocean, it's a little bit warmer behind the boat than it was when it went in. And the thermal camera can see that. You can see that person's head sticking up out of the water because their head is, a different temperature from the water around it. And it sticks out like a sore thumb,
Hopefully it is a little bit different temperature than the water.
Yes. Yeah, that's true.
Nope. Hey, you want to say hi? I'm on a podcast. Hey, come say hi.
Who do we got?
Gentlemen, how's it going?
Good.
Hey there.
Everybody good?
Thanks, Dan.
Sir.
Getting sprayed for pests. Sorry to interrupt.
Nah, it's all
Yeah,
good.
that's all right.
Hey, so the Lighthouse Apps
Yes.
stuff that are in there, it's probably like an underutilized feature in there. Like, we'll go through the delivery and stuff, and then you show them on that. Can you talk a little bit about the apps that are available and how those work?
Sure can. Yeah. So Lighthouse Apps is a program that we have for all of our Axiom Lighthouse 3 MFDs.
Thanks.
Right on the unit's home screen, you'll actually see a little button on the bottom. It says Apps, and when you tap it, there's a bunch of different apps, very similar to Apple or Android apps, that can be loaded onto the MFD. Some of them are, super familiar, things like Netflix, Spotify, so you get some entertainment capabilities. And those utilize the Wi-Fi capability in Axiom, so that when you're sitting in the marina or you're within Wi-Fi range of somewhere, or you have a mobile hotspot, you can watch a movie or listen to a playlist. Some of the apps are more utilitarian in nature. For example, we have an app that links up with Seakeeper. So if you've got a big boat with a Seakeeper gyro system on board, you can control that Seakeeper right from the Raymarine MFD. It actually is very convenient on a lot of boats. Maybe you want to be able to control the Seakeeper on a tower. You don't have room for an extra Seakeeper display. You can just access it right from the MFD.
Nice.
Start and stop, uncage the gyro, all that sort of stuff. It's pretty cool. We can control a lot of underwater lighting systems as well. So underwater lighting from Lumishore, Shadowcaster, they both have great apps that you can install on the system. And you can change colors, and you can synchronize your music and do all sorts of cool lighting effects all right from your MFD. So it's just very, very convenient way to add additional capabilities to the system. Some of them are fun, and some of them are just great utilities to have on board.
I noticed when I was poking around on a website last night, there's a number of different weather apps. There's a number of different wind apps and stuff like that. If you wouldn't mind kind of breaking that down, what the different ones have to offer. Like if you go on Raymarine's website, you look at the Lighthouse apps, it looks like one of them's pretty in-depth.
Sure, yeah. So there's a very popular one called Buoy Weather.
Yeah.
Buoy Weather has a big website presence as well, and they have mobile apps too. So I believe you can use your Buoy Weather subscription on your MFD. But it's a great way to get localized weather forecasts, some fishing forecast information. We also have a couple of other weather services on there as well. We have something called GridView, which works with a worldwide provider called FAIR. We have Predict Wind, which is more of a sailing focused weather app, and it can do some weather routing and things like that. So there's different apps to cater to different types of boaters, and depending on what your passion is, whether it's fishing, whether it's cruising or sailing, there's different weather apps in there to support those different types of functions.
Mm-hmm. So correct me if I'm wrong, there's also a way that you can even download sea surface temperature charts, correct?
There is, yes. So we have a partnership with Meizu, which is a satellite service provider. So they offer some email and text capability, and they also offer access to fishing charts as well through the ROF's weather forecasting service. So through the Meizu app, if you have the right, I think it's a derivative of Iridium Go hardware. You can get your satellite forecasts right there on the MFD, and you can also get that sort of data from SiriusXM as well. That's another possibility that the system supports. So it's very flexible.
Yeah, I hope that nobody watching hates me for saying this, but those tournament teams and stuff like that, and all those teams that we talk about 10% of fishermen catch 90% of the fish. Man, how do they do it? How do they do it? Oh, they're just lucky. They're lucky. I will say one of those things that makes them, when we're talking offshore, we're talking to big game fishermen, we're talking those guys that they put up major marlin numbers every single year of those pelagic species. That's one of those things. Is those sea surface temperature charts, whether it's down here in a loop current or whether it's up there in the canyons up off of New Jersey and the Carolinas. That's that's one of those things that I think fully utilizing your machine to get the most out of it. I'm impressed with those charts. I am. You spend a little bit of money. It doesn't come. It's not just necessarily like you open it up and it's there, but it's underrated.
There's a lot of information in there, and if you consider that those types of services can make your fishing so much more efficient. You can go out there and you can run around all day at high speed looking for fish and here and looking for fish there, or you can get a little bit of data behind it, a little bit of science behind it, and now you know where to go, and you're not just hunting for the fish. You're finding them, and going to the areas where you have the highest likelihood of finding the species you're looking for.
I like it.
Save some fuel and have more fun too.
Exactly. We like fish. We like catching more than fishing, right, Keith?
Absolutely. And speaking of ROFs, I'm a believer. When we did the Grand Old Opry, we paid for the subscription and got some intel, and didn't really catch the fish on the exact spot, but we were in that area because of that. That's the reason we went that way, was because of the information we got from that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're pretty good provider, very reliable, and they've been at it for a long time too.
Yep, absolutely.
Pretty neat.
So I mean, it's almost, is it an unfair advantage? I don't know. It's all relative, but it definitely helps you out. It's crazy to think how far stuff has came. I mean, Keith, you've been at MarineMax for 18 years, and I mean, you talk about how it has evolved even in the last 5 years. I remember back when I was a teenager, like a Raymarine E120. You're bottom fishing out there. You got a colored unit. That is the top of the line. Now it looks like a dinosaur, but I mean, I remember you could see your bottom fishing, the line coming underneath the boat. Wow. And now we're talking about seeing a guy smoking a cigarette on your FLIR a mile away. It's crazy how it's advanced.
Well, let's go back further to Gymtronics with the little flasher, little display reading your depth going around. And then it was the greatest thing in the world if you had a, Loran A, then you had to try to, work that. Then we got Loran C, and then your bottom machines, with back around here, it was, Cytex or King. And with the paper scratchers and put the paper in there to burn the stuff for your white lines and all that. And, now today to where we are, where it's just, there's something new evolving just constantly.
Yeah. When I first started with Raymarine, we were on the tail end of those paper machines. And I started with the company in technical support. And I remember answering questions all the time about where they could order the refill packs of paper and where they could get more ink for the styluses in those units. And I imagine most of those are probably all gone now. They're antiques.
Man, that's high tech compared to the guys that would have some fishing line on a big old block of soap, drop it down to the bottom. If you pull it up and there was sand on it, it's not good bottom because it's not rock bottom. You pull it up and there's no sand on it, means that you're on rock bottom. But that's before my time, probably. I mean, Keith, I don't know how many bars of soap you went through out there. But
we'll talk offline.
but yeah, it's just like, man, what's next? Like we see all of these advanced technologies, and there's something new every year. What's on the horizon that might have just been like, there's no way, and it would have been a joke a few years ago?
That's what's pretty cool about this business, is there's always something new coming down the line. And even as a company, when we design a product, like that Axiom multifunction display, even we don't know necessarily what the next thing is going to be. We have all sorts of innovators and scientists that work for us, and they're always working on these different projects. And suddenly we'll have a breakthrough, and we'll figure out a way that, wow, we can turn that into something really cool. A very good example of that is our augmented reality system. So when we released Axiom to the market, 6 years ago now, that AR was, something that you only saw in, the Terminator movies, and now, it's very common on a lot of different platforms, but it's something that Axiom has enough memory and enough processing power that we're able to implement augmented reality on that system, and it's really cool. It's very, very effective out on the water. It's a cool way to visualize information that people had been using for a while, but they just hadn't seen it in that particular head-up style presentation, and really has a lot of good utility.
So if somebody wants to add to build out their current system they've got, right, and they want to add the Clear Cruise augmented reality, what does it entail? What do they have to do?
So assuming they already have an Axiom display, and any Axiom will do it, from the smallest to the largest, 7-inch up to 24-inch. There's two components you need to have on board the boat. You need to have something called an AR200 augmented reality processor, and it's just a little sensor. It's about the size of a hockey puck, and it has in it a GPS. It has something called an ACARS, an attitude and heading reference system. It's basically like a very fancy compass and pitch roll sensing system for the boat, so it's actually measuring all the motions. And the software in it has something for monitoring network latency, and I'll talk about that in a second. The other component you need is a IP video camera, so something like our Cam 210 or Cam 220. It's a marine grade, high definition bullet camera or dome style camera, or it'll work with one of the FLIRs as well, but that's sort of a more deluxe implementation. But for the basics, a Cam 210, looking forward, it's great. What that AR200 does is it takes that video camera image and it actually synchronizes it with the motions of the boat that it detects in the seaway. So the pitching, the rolling, the heaving. And then we take information from our AIS system. We take information from the electronic charts, and we take waypoints that are saved locally in the Axiom's database, and we can present them in 3D space on that live video image. So, when the boat turns to the south and you're looking south, you'll see every ship on the horizon that has an AIS transponder will have its name sitting right above it, and that name tracks along with it as a very smooth graphic. Same for navigation aids. When you're running a channel at night and there's buoys, they're out there, but you can't quite see where they are yet with your naked eye. The AR system is going to actually show you that, oh, there's a red, there's a green right there, and you'll see them in the AR system probably before you see them with your eye. And then when they become visible, sure enough, everything lines up in perfect alignment.
Crazy.
You can do the same with your waypoints too. That's actually a great feature for people that are fishing. You're a local captain or a local guide, and you got a lot of potential spots around, and maybe you're on a spot that today isn't so hot. You can look at the AR system at a glance and just see what's nearby. I thought, oh, this reef is over here and this wreck is over here. Point the boat at it and go. Just a quick and easy way to visualize that information.
Nice.
I like it. I haven't used it yet. Have you used it, Keith?
Yeah. Well, just down there when we were shooting the videos for the Boating Tips series videos with Raymarine, and it's neat, man. You're coming out of Hillsborough Inlet there, and the light, and just the different ships and the markers and all that shows up on there great.
It's always kind of interesting because when you think back, you've had the AIS presentation before on the chart, and you're looking at it from a bird's eye view, top down, right? You can see contacts and see names. But when all of a sudden you put it into this presentation that's the same as you'd see as you look through the windshield, it's a lot more meaningful. You can now see that, oh, there's actually a ship, coming around the bend in the ICW, and I can't see him behind the trees and the buildings. But the AR display signals to me that he's there, and he's about to pop out, so I should be ready for that. Just lots of little tips and little things like that you can glean from the system that are pretty neat.
Cool. So that's going to lead us into one thing coming up, and I always make the joke all the time, ha ha ha. The joystick puts captains out of business, and that's why I had to move into sales. Well, when we're talking about DockSense, Keith, you might be joining me on the floor here soon because boats are docking themselves. It's a hot topic. It's we talk about the next big thing. I cannot wait to get my hands on one. Aside from seeing them in the videos, Keith, I don't know if you have any experience with it with DocSense yourself, but
just what I've seen, like you.
I mean, fill us in on that, because I think that is the single coolest thing. I mean, it's almost like a joke. I mean, sometimes folks will come to me and be like, "Hey, when are these things going to start docking themselves?" Well,
guess what?
It's coming soon. It's DocSense is a pretty cool system, and this is another one of those features that someone back in our engineering office had a great idea, and they said, "Look, we've got this really cool 3D stereo vision camera technology. This is from another division of FLIR. I think we could apply it in the maritime space, and here's what we can do with it." And we have the ability to kind of play with these ideas, see if they shake out, and here we had a natural winner. So what DocSense does is it uses stereo vision cameras. The little camera module actually has 2 cameras in a box. They're a fixed distance apart, and just like our eyeballs on our faces, when we put 2 cameras side by side, that gives us depth perception. And these cameras are very, very accurate. They can look at a scene and measure the distance to every single object in the scene to a matter of fractions of an inch. And then the camera can take that digital image and all those measurements and turn it into a map. And the map looks like radar, but it's actually completely developed by the camera. So now, with the aid of these cameras, we know exactly where our boat is positioned in relation to the environment around it. And we can see things like docks, we can see pilings, we can see other boats in close proximity to it. And the DocSense system can provide proximity warnings to let you know when you're getting too close to something. It has sensors in every camera module as well that independently monitor the pitch and roll and yaw motion of the boat at that point. So we get a very, very accurate presentation of which way the boat is drifting, whether it's from the wind or the currents, how close we're getting to objects. We also have a normal video display in there as well, so you can physically see blind spots that you might not be able to see with your eyes. And it just all integrates seamlessly into Axiom. When you're coming into the dock, you just hit the button, enable the DocSense. All the cameras come online. Their little weather shutters magically open up, and the system comes online and it's ready to go. It's pretty cool. So that feature is called DocSense Alert, and Boston Whaler is actually our first manufacturer partner to launch that system. So we'll probably see that this fall on some of the 2021 model year Boston Whalers, starting with the bigger boats.
Nice.
I'm excited.
It's pretty cool. It really does make a huge difference. One of the things with boating, everybody gets in and they get hooked, right? And they have a good time out on the water, and they may start out on a 17-foot boat, but then they get the bug, right? And they want the bigger boat and the bigger boat and the bigger boat. And that's, obviously you love that, Nick, in your line of work. You want them coming back and getting the bigger boat. But what's the most intimidating part of operating a bigger boat? It's docking it. So anything we can do to make that easier, just makes the boating experience better for everyone.
I like it. It's definitely take all these little things. We're slowly, just the world of boating and how the industry is evolving. You're slowly but surely taking all the stress little by little that you can out of a day on the water. And I think that's what it's all about. It's just so you can just enjoy yourself. And Keith and I say it all the time. If you got the toys, use them.
Yep. So like Jim said, the stressful thing, the 2 things I get from majority of the customers who I deliver boats to, one's the docking, and the other is, how do I get there? How do I know how to get there? How can I do it? So my GPS in my car, I can put in a destination and it's just going to automatically route me there. So they go, will this do that? And I said, yes, but not exactly right now. There's some things you got to do first in order to allow that to work, which involves your chart card and also going in and setting up the parameters of your own boat in the boat settings, right?
That's right. Yeah. So it's interesting, like you mentioned, the car paradigm, and that's what everybody thinks of with auto routing, and
right.
Just, tap in a destination and go. But the difference between a car and a boat, obviously, is that In a car, worst case scenario, you stop the car and you pull over to the side of the road and you figure out because it didn't quite map me the right way. Where on the water, all it takes is one good storm churning up the coast, and all of a sudden you've got sandbars where you didn't have them before. You've got nav aids that have been knocked out of position. And that's the reason that the auto routing is actually quite a bit more complex for a boat than it is for a car. We don't have as many lanes. We don't have as many fixed roads, but there's a lot of hazards that you can't see. Depths, wrecks and reefs and shoals and things like that. So to do auto routing on a Raymarine system, it's a feature that we have implemented with either Navionics or CMAP cartography. So whatever brand of charts you like, they both offer auto routing capability on Raymarine. I'd say the majority of our customers are running Navionics charts. So to get auto routing running on the system, one real critical thing is you want to make sure your charts are up to date. The nice thing is when you buy a new Navionics chart, whether you buy the chart by itself, from the accessories counter at MarineMax, or if the charts came on a new boat, and they were bundled with the system, all those new charts include the first year of updates for free. There's a system called Freshest Data that Navionics offers. Right. And there's two ways that you can update your charts, but it gets all the latest changes and corrections in there so that from the get-go you're starting with the most accurate and up-to-date information. So once you have a Freshest Data subscription running on your card and you've activated it, that auto routing feature comes to life, and then you can auto route to your heart's content. And it really is as simple as just setting your destination. The system looks at the parameters for your boat that you've input. It looks at its length, its width, its draft, right. Make sure you're going to fit between bridges and underneath things and that sort of stuff. And it'll plot the safe route for you. Now, you always do want to check that route just to make sure it didn't do anything strange or route you through some place that you're not supposed to be going. But the accuracy on it is actually very, very good.
How do you, a lot of people buy boats. I'd say that the majority of them never update their system. It's just, they take it and then that is what it is. How do you update your Raymarine? Do you need to be over Wi-Fi or what? Is it that easy? How do you just make sure that you're all up to date?
Sure, it is actually super easy to update our systems. And that's something that we identified a few years ago was a shortcoming. People would buy a boat or they'd buy a system and have it installed on a boat, and they would use it, but it never updated it because the update process was kind of cumbersome. Mm-hmm. So starting actually with our Lighthouse 2 products, the predecessors to Axiom, we implemented updates over Wi-Fi. So every MFD that we make has a Wi-Fi wireless networking adapter built in. So if you dock your boat at home or in a marina that has Wi-Fi, if you have access to the internet around your boat, you just simply, right on the MFD, go into its settings menu and you say update, and it'll connect to Wi-Fi. It'll communicate with Raymarine server, and it'll not only check the MFD, but it checks all your other Raymarine hardware too. So if you've got an Autopilot, you've got a radar, a sonar, even the transducers that plug into things, they all have little computers and software in them. We check your whole system, and it'll pull down whatever updates it needs. The MFD serves the updates out to all the components, and then as the last step, it updates itself. And it's a simple way to keep your boat up to date and ready to go all the time. In the event that you don't have Wi-Fi, there is still a traditional method as well. You can pop onto Raymarine.com. You can download the latest update for your Axiom MFD, and that update includes Axiom plus the library of software for everything else. So you'll still be updating all your peripherals. You'll just have a physical download on a micro SD card instead of doing it over Wi-Fi.
So this is a twofold deal. So you've got to keep your chart card updated, and you've got to keep your MFD updated to the latest, greatest software.
That is true, yep. And the chart card side of it is also very, very easy to do. So I mentioned that whenever you activate one of these Navionics cards, you get a year of updates included. To update your card, you can do it one of two ways. You can pull the card out of the MFD and take it home once in a while, plug it into your computer, connect it to the internet, log on to Navionics.com, and they will download updates to your map, and then you can bring them back to the boat and you're ready to go. The other way you can do it is with the Navionics boating app. If you have a active copy of the boating app on your iPhone, iPad, or your Android phone or tablet, you can actually use it as a relay to download updates. So when you get to the boat, your mobile device connects to the Raymarine. It looks at your map inside and sees, what revision you're at, and then it will communicate back to Navionics and say, oh, we need updates since last Thursday, and it'll pull them down to your mobile device and then transfer them into the map card in your Raymarine. It's all pretty seamless.
Oh, no kidding. Because it's very easy on the app. I mean, it says, hey, your charts aren't up to date. Boom. I mean, don't even think about it. So.
Yep. And that's about it too. Once you've set it up the first time, every time you step foot on the boat and you launch that Navionics app, it'll say, oh, Raymarine Axiom 12 is detected. You want to transfer updates.
That's awesome.
Yes. And it does it very, very quickly.
And then isn't that too kind of, we've got the option in there to share your sonar data or something like that? They'll get that information to be able, so that's the way they can kind of tell if channels are getting deeper or shallower or whatever by you running through there. They know what it is.
They do. So there's a feature in the system for sonar logging. And as you're just going about your business and doing your normal boating, you can actually have that running in the background, and it continuously records the boat's track history and the depth associated with it. And periodically, you can upload that information to Navionics, and they use that to improve their, they call it sonar chart layer. So it's the bathymetric charts that are used by fishermen. It will record information at 1 foot contour intervals. So the cool thing about it is, recreational boaters can cover a lot more ground than the U.S. government can when it comes to doing surveys, especially when you start getting into a lot of these real skinny waters and places where only people going in there are fishermen. There's no commercial navigation going through there. So we can generate super detailed information, and by uploading it into the Navionics ecosystem, everyone benefits. They process that data, turn it into map updates, and then the next time that you use your app or you plug in and receive updates, whammo, you're getting all that information that's been compiled from, thousands, if not millions of boaters, depending on where you're at.
Yep. See, here at the Clearwater store, we're sitting here on Allen's Creek, way up in the top end of Tampa Bay, and there's actually no NOAA charts for this far up the bay in here. That's just drawn off. But
you need
how many years ago it was once they started doing this, we did an auto routing. And I mean, I'll be damned, it didn't go right off our docks, right out the creek and wind right around. And I'm like, how the heck did it know that, without just kind of like saying, oh, you got to start out here.
Yeah.
But it's because over time, there's been enough logs made in and out of here that they've, can accurately depict that and plot your route through here.
Yeah, it's a very cool system. And that's a great example of a location that totally benefits from this type of system.
Yeah.
Because, it's not like anybody's running, container ships up there or oil tankers up there or anything else. The water's just way too shallow for that.
Yeah.
But, for recreational boaters, it's critical to have that information. So here's a place where, we can band together as a community, record some data, and they put it together into a really awesome detailed navigation chart.
So talking about just boaters helping boaters, that brings me to one more point, one more thing I'm going to pick your brain about. We're all a little bit tight-lipped, we are, but, you got to share a little bit of some knowledge. Fishity.
Yes.
Social media, everybody does it. Everybody's got it. This is what you guys are doing to kind of share the knowledge a little bit, help everybody. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the Fishity app, what it is? Is it an app? I don't even know. I've briefly read about it. I've never used it, but what's the rundown on Fishity?
Yeah, so Fishity is a pretty cool product. It is a community-based fishing social media app. And the way it's available for Apple or Android devices, you load it on your smartphone or on your tablet. And the idea behind it is it gives you a lot of insight and local knowledge into the waterways that you fish all the time. So through the years, Fishity has collected millions of reports from both recreational and professional guides and captains in areas all over the country. They have that data built in to their app, and it's actually embedded in their charts from a provider called Fishing Hotspots. There is also the ability to log catches that you make. So if you want to share them out to social media with your friends and family, if you want to brag to other anglers about, look at this great fish I caught, or if you just like to keep records of your catches for your own purposes, so that next season maybe where a good spot to check out is. It's really neat. You can take pictures, you can record all of the environmental data. In fact, it captures that automatically from their weather provider. You can even log, the tackle and the bait that you were using, so that you have a record of all that information the next time you visit that spot. The other thing that Fishy can do is it can also sync your waypoints and routes with Raymarine systems. So all those great catch spots that you have that you have recorded through the years on board your boat, you can instantly transfer them into the Fishy app and then have them in your pocket on your smartphone or on your tablet. So when you are planning the next big outing, if you do want to share something with somebody and give them a lead on a hot spot, it's got a beautiful interface which you can show that on. It's got very detailed charts. You have access to satellite photos, weather information, tides, currents. It's all in there. It's great.
Nice.
You talk about, you get these guys, they're the 1%ers. They're the ones that catch all these fish, and not a single one of them is doing just one big thing that's so different, that's a big secret that everybody knows about. And I think that a big part of them being so good at what they do, all these professional anglers, is they do 100 little things, whether it's the fishery, whether it's logging your charts, whether it's staying in tune with your sea surface temperatures and stuff like that. And I think a big part of that is simply unlocking the full potential of what your electronics can do.
It really is. They're a very powerful tool. There's a lot of data that can feed into them and through them. And these tools are all about just making that time on the water, more productive, more efficient, and safer as well. Pulls it all together.
Welcome to the future. The future is here, people.
Yes.
So, Keith, what do you think? Anything else that comes to your mind at the moment? Guys, if there's anything that comes to your mind, drop it in the comments, and we'll get to them next week. We'll ask Jim. So, Keith, anything on your mind right now?
I just want to say hey to Jennifer Miller. Glad you're here. Good to see you on here.
Yeah. I'll get you that autograph next week. I'll sign your 280 outrage. So good stuff. Well, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Thank Jim. Thank you for joining us. One of the Raymarine and FLIR, one of the industry leaders for sure. I know that especially in our line of work with the partnership with Boston Whaler, it's something that Keith and I deal with all the time, and are just so excited to see what's right around the corner on the next edge, on that next little wave of technology.
Yeah, there's always something on the horizon, and it's very exciting business to work in because of that.
Yes, it is.
What do you say, Keith? You want to sign us off?
Oh, just want to say thanks everybody for joining us. We appreciate it. It's National Safe Boating Week. Wear your life jackets. Stay safe out there. Got Memorial Day weekend coming up, and just be safe and be smart.
Sounds good. So once again, guys, give us a like, give us a follow. Facebook at MarineMax Leisure, Instagram and YouTube at MarineMax Online, Twitter at MarineMax, and I believe that there's a special episode of From the Helm tomorrow. Isn't that right?
Yes, there is. And guess who's going to be on that again? He's got a double feature.
Double feature this week.
You
Make sure I tell my mom so she can watch.
So from the Helm tomorrow at 11, be with Kelly and Lisa and Jim again from Raymarine.
I will be
Oh, yeah. After this week, your guys' mental navionics chips are going to be all updated, and you'll be ready to rock. Tough crowd. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Jim. Keith, thanks as always, man. I'll see you out on the water.
You got it.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.